Hi students, this is Dr. Arindam and from today we'll be starting our lecture series on protein metabolism. Mind it, protein metabolism is included in competency number 5. We have already covered competency number 5.1 and 5.2, okay, where we have already discussed about multiple hemoglobinopathies, the structure function relationship of hemoglobin, how that works. We have got dedicated videos for that. Now, when we consider the rest of the competencies, it deals with digestion and absorption of dietary proteins as well as common disorders associated with protein metabolism, and it ends with inborn error of metabolism. So we will be covering all of these topics in detail in our next few classes. But in order to know the disorders, you need to know what's normal and how things go, right? So we'll be starting very slow and we'll surely cover each and every topic. Now, to start with the digestion part, this is the easier one. Most of you already know from your plus 2 lessons, so we'll be recapping those lessons and then we'll be slowly going into a new concept. So protein breakdown begins in the stomach, right? Key point is there is no proteolytic enzyme, okay, in the saliva. So this is a very important all except MCQ question. So you see from the very first line question starts actually. So what does they do? They actually, the hydrolyzing enzymes, they hydrolyze the proteins, okay, that is 10% of the peptide bonds, okay, and they also denature the protein with the help of pepsin enzyme, which is already, you know, which works in acidic environment from our enzymology classes, okay. So the big complex chunk of proteins, you know, burgers and whatever you are eating and chicken tandoori. So all of them are first broken down in the stomach, and from big polypeptide chains, they are broken down into short polypeptide chains. Okay. The further, the 90%, the rest 90% are being taken care of in the intestine via the pancreatic juices, and you also know they are trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, etc. Right? When we consider digestion of any protein or polypeptide, you know how protein is represented. There is an amino terminal and there is a carboxy terminal. The terminal amino acid that occurs in the end is known as a residue. So of course there is an amino terminal residue and there is a carboxy terminal residue. The enzymes that breaks peptide bonds are known as peptidase. Alright, so the enzyme that will be cutting the carboxy terminal residue is known as carboxypeptidase, and the enzyme that will cut the amino terminal is known as aminopeptidase. So when carboxypeptidase and aminopeptidase acts, okay, they will produce what is known as free amino acids. Okay, not only them, the ones, suppose now we have got these 3 amino acids linked by 2 polypeptide chains. Chymotrypsin can easily break these bonds and we will also get free amino acids. So all of these enzymes, aminopeptidase, carboxypeptidase, trypsin, chymotrypsin, they help in production of free amino acid, but not pepsin. Pepsin never produces free amino acid, it produces short polypeptide chain. So again, this is another MCQ. Free amino acid is produced by all except, so you'll get multiple options, you should mark pepsin. Okay, so let me write over here, this is also an MCQ. So free amino acids are absorbed through the intestinal wall via active transport. Okay, so what is the fate of these free amino acids? So naturally they are absorbed, and what they do, they add to the total amino acid pool. Pool means a collection of amino acid, right? And the whole thing will get added to that pool. Whenever we need, for example, for protein synthesis translation, we will derive free amino acid, we will take free amino acid from that pool. Okay, it's less like a bunch of cash that you keep in your almirah. So what's the source of these free amino acid? Majorly there are 3 sources. Number 1, breakdown of dietary proteins, okay, which we just learned. Next, biosynthesis of amino acid in the liver. Okay, there are multiple pathways by which amino acids can be synthesized, especially the non-essential amino acids. Of course, they are synthesized in our body, hence they are known as non-essential. Alright, and lastly, turnover. Not always the things are used up 100%, so things get circulated back. So that is known as protein turnover. They also contribute to the amino acid pool. Okay, so protein turnover is breakdown and resynthesis of body protein. So body protein, what is there? It breaks down, and again from those materials protein is resynthesized. Dietary we need from outside, the essential amino acid. Okay, so who are those tissues that gets broken down, and from which tissues they are resynthesized? Old tissues, old aging tissues, damaged tissues, and recycling enzymes and hormones. So let us summarize the whole digestion part. First, there is dietary protein. It gets into our mouth. Saliva has got no effect on protein digestion. It goes to the stomach, where HCl denaturizes the protein, and pepsin breaks few peptide bonds and converts them into large polypeptide chains. Alright, then what happens? They go into the small intestine, where the main proteolytic enzyme trypsin, chymotrypsin, and both the peptidases act on them to form free amino acids. Okay, they are absorbed via the brush border via active transport, and they contribute to the amino acid pool in the bloodstream. So this is enough about digestion and absorption. Believe me, as a first year student, you don't need to know anything more than this. Okay, because you'll be given a long question or a part of a long question. Nowadays, questions 10 marks on protein digestion will never come. It will be short segments, and definitely if you cover this with this flow diagram, it will be enough for you to answer. However, you might need to know a bit about the enzyme CCK, cholecystokimine, right, pancreozymin, from your physiology lessons, because they also help in aiding secretion of pancreatic juice that help in digestion of fat and protein. So that's it about digestion and absorption of protein. So we will straightway go into the most important mechanism, reaction mechanism related to protein metabolism, that is transamination and deamination. In between them, oxidative deamination is more important. So we'll be dealing about these two only, right? Because these are most important for Viva. So regarding all these, deal with degradation of amino acids. So what are the two steps by which amino acids are degraded? Number one, the amino group is removed. Okay, and number two, the rest of the carbon skeleton is broken down. So it is very easy to understand. Any amino acid has got a carboxyl group and an amino group. So first the amino group will be removed, and then the rest of the carbon skeleton. Now this amino group is released in two steps. Number one, transamination, okay, and number two, oxidative deamination. Okay, so you will see, if you look at the reactions, every textbook has got transamination and deamination in reaction form. You will see everywhere there is glutamate. You will find this molecule everywhere. Please note, you do not need to remember the structure, okay, in any of these reactions. Just remember the name of reactant and the product. That will be enough for you. But you need to remember, as a part of amino acid chemistry, okay, glutamine structure is very important. So you should remember that. So in general, glutamate, aspartate, alanine and glutamine, okay, they are present in very high concentration in mammalian cells, and hence they have got a major role in many metabolic functions, okay, as well as many structural proteins as well, especially glutamate. Okay, so this is a must know area. You should always know glutamate. Okay, if you are asked the most important amino acid related to protein metabolism, it's definitely glutamate. Okay, so let us now learn what is transamination. You will get a short note regarding transamination. Okay, so you can write the definition in your own way if you understand, right? So let's look at the definition. Transamination is defined as a transfer of amino group from an amino acid to a keto acid with the formation of a new amino acid and a new keto acid. So amino acid 1 plus keto acid 1, transfer of amino group happen, and they lead to formation of amino acid 2 and keto acid 2. Okay, catalyzed by a group of enzyme known as transaminases. Very easy to remember: transamination, transaminase enzyme. Or if you want to know if you actually understand the mechanism, what is happening? Transfer of an amino group is happening. So these are also known as amino transferases. Okay, so transaminase, amino transferase, same thing. But important thing over here is the cofactor, that is pyridoxal phosphate or vitamin B6 or pyridoxine. This is very important because pyridoxal phosphate, without pyridoxal phosphate, protein metabolism will go full stop. So because transamination is very important part of protein metabolism, and that requires PLP as a cofactor. Okay. So what are the organs that mainly rely on this transamination? They are liver, brain, heart, kidney. Okay. So this will come in handy when we look in applied clinical importance of problem of all these organs. So remember the name transaminase. Transaminase enzyme have got clinical importance. So what are the specific two transaminases enzyme that are used to diagnose disorders? First example is alanine transaminase. It is written as ALT. The short form is ALT. What is it doing, alanine transaminase? This enzyme, okay, just omit this line. This is converting alanine to pyruvate. Okay, remember this reaction is reversible. You can also convert pyruvate to alanine. Okay, over here alanine plus oxoglutarate is also same as alpha ketoglutarate that you have found in TCA cycle. So alanine plus alpha ketoglutarate makes pyruvate plus glutamate. Okay, so remember alpha ketoglutarate on the left side and glutamate on the right side. Okay, and pyruvate is converted to alanine. So over here this is an amino acid, this is a keto acid, alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, this is another keto acid, there's a keto group in pyruvate, and this is another amino acid. So glutamate is an amino acid. So one amino acid plus one keto acid, the amino group is simply getting transferred. Okay, it is getting transferred to here. So it forms pyruvate and glutamate. Very easy. If you look at the structure, it is easier to understand. If you don't want to remember the structure, just remember the names. Easy enough. So what is the role of ALT, alanine transaminase? This enzyme actually helps in diagnosing liver disease. Okay, since it is present in the liver cells, inside the liver cells, if liver cells are damaged, ALT enzyme comes out from the liver cell and its value rises very high in the serum. So serum ALT value will be very high. Okay, remember ALT L. Okay, ALT goes high in liver disorder. There is another name of this enzyme, especially in older textbook. This enzyme is also known as SGPT. Okay, now how to remember SGPT? Again, very simple. Okay, see both of these products. Okay, serum, glutamate, pyruvate, transaminase. Okay, so very easy. So see, glutamate, I told you, is a common factor in all transamination reaction. Okay, this is the variable factor. So alanine, from alanine pyruvate is formed. So the new nomenclature tells you the reactant, that is ALT, alanine transaminase, and the old name, that is SGPT, tells you about the product, serum glutamate pyruvate transaminase. So these are basically two same enzyme, ALT or SGPT. If you see any blood report of liver function test, you will find either one of these two names, SGOT SGPT or ALT AST. Fine, both of them, I mean the same enzyme goes up in liver disease. Okay, so SGPT liver disease. So you can remember this mnemonic. This is known as LP or lumbar puncture. Okay, if you remember LP, you can easily remember SGPT rises up in liver disease. Liver disease, ALT will rise. So this is how you remember it. It's easy. Another important enzyme that you need to know. Okay, and what is the cofactor over here? Pyridoxal phosphate will act as a cofactor, PLP. Fine. Next, there is another enzyme that is known as aspartate transaminase. So what do we know from the previous reaction we can apply in this reaction? So pyridoxal phosphate will apply as a cofactor. We know that. In the left side there is oxoglutarate or alpha ketoglutarate. This is the common keto acid which acts as a amino group acceptor and to lead to formation of a common amino acid, that is glutamate. So this is amino acid 2. This is keto acid 1. What is our target amino acid this time? Amino acid is aspartate. Aspartate is being converted to alpha. It is converted to oxaloacetate. Okay, sorry, it is converted to oxaloacetate or OAA, right? So this enzyme aspartate transaminase, whose short form is AST, okay, it is also can be named as serum glutamate oxaloacetate transaminase. Okay, so AST and SGOT are again same thing. This SGOT enzyme is also present in liver cell, but it is present in much more in heart cell, cardiac myocytes. Okay, so in any problem related to heart, okay, acute myocardial infarction or any problem related to heart, cardiac problem, this SGOT enzyme will go up. So remember, of course, nothing is absolutely true in medical science, so both SGOT and SGPT goes hand in hand. Generally we say if SGOT is more than SGPT, there is a propensity for development of heart disease, and if SGPT is more than SGOT, generally indicates liver disease. As a first year student, this is enough for you. SGOT more heart disease, SGPT more liver disease, but both of them are same transaminase enzyme. They both are acting in the similar mechanism, one amino acid, one keto acid, to formation of another amino acid, another keto acid. Pyridoxal phosphate acts as a cofactor. Okay, and what is the common keto acid over here? Alpha ketoglutarate. What is the common amino acid in the product? What is the common keto acid in the product? That is this amino acid is glutamate. So remember, in any transamination reaction, this oxoglutarate or alpha ketoglutarate is fixed and glutamate is fixed. Only these two varies, and based on them the enzyme names are done. Aspartate transaminase, same as serum glutamate oxaloacetate transaminase. So what are the salient features of transamination? Even if I don't read this slide, you will be easily able to tell me. All transaminase enzymes require pyridoxal phosphate or vitamin B6 in its active form. Remember, vitamin B6 is pyridoxine. The active form is pyridoxal phosphate. One very important feature you can see, there is transfer of amino group. This ammonia group, NH3 group, amine group is getting transferred, but it is never freely liberated. We are not getting free ammonia. Okay, so no free ammonia is liberated, only the transfer of amino group. Okay, transamination is reversible, very important. These reactions can go both sides, both this and this. Okay, SGOT and SGPT reaction can go both. There are multiple transaminase enzymes. We just taught you two, SGOT and SGPT. There are multiple such transaminase enzymes which vary in substrate specificity. Naturally, SGOT will act on aspartate, SGPT will act on alanine, so on and so forth. Okay. However, ALT and AST make a significant contribution for transamination. These are the major ones. Okay. If you want to know the name of two transaminase enzyme, you must remember SGOT and SGPT. Next, transamination is also important for redistribution of amino groups and production of non-essential amino acid. If you look at the production of non-essential amino acid, how they are synthesized, you will see most of them are getting transaminated from other essential amino acid, right? So this is one important mechanism by which non-essential amino acids are getting synthesized. Next, it diverts excess amino acid towards energy generation. How? Very important. We see this pyruvate, okay, this oxaloacetate, they are all substrate for gluconeogenesis, substrate for citric acid cycle, right? So citric acid cycle, both oxaloacetate and pyruvate can enter, and they lead to production of ATP, which is the energy currency of the body. So it diverts excess amino acid via the process of transamination to production of ATP. Amino acid undergo transamination to finally concentrate nitrogen in glutamate. Very important. You already saw, whatever transamination reaction is happening, final amine acceptor is the glutamate. Okay, I mean finally the amino acid is accepted and leads to formation of glutamate. So all bodies amino acid is getting concentrated in glutamate form. Next, what happens? Glutamate, this glutamate, we are now going into the next mechanism, right? Glutamate undergoes oxidative deamination, will be showing you, to liberate free ammonia. This is important. So till transamination step, there is no free ammonia generation. Once transamination is completed, now this glutamate will undergo oxidative deamination reaction. It will liberate free ammonia. And especially for human it is important because we cannot excrete ammonia, we cannot handle ammonia. Ammonia is very toxic to us. We'll be definitely telling you in future how ammonia is toxic, but in humans ammonia is converted to urea. We are ureotelic animals. Fishes are ammonotelic, birds are uricotelic. We are ureotelic. Our excretory product form is urea, in which nitrogen is excreted. So ammonia will be now liberated for urea synthesis. There is a very important MCQ over here. All amino acids, okay, very important MCQ. Please note this line. All amino acid except lysine, threonine, proline and hydroxyproline participate in transamination. So if you are being told transamination occurs in all except, you need to mark any one of these four, okay? Or these enzymes do not undergo transamination. They may give 3 of these names and they may give alanine. Definitely alanine goes transamination, okay? So this you need to be careful. So this line is very important for MCQ purpose. Who are the amino acid that does not get involved in transamination? Now you see this transamination reaction is reversible. So whether we need formation of pyruvate or oxaloacetate, that is whether it is helping glycolysis or TCA cycle, or whether from pyruvate it is getting converted to alanine, whatever it is, either catabolism or anabolism, transamination can take part in both because it is a reversible reaction. So depending on body's need, either free amino acid can be utilized to production of energy, or the substrates can lead to formation of amino acid in order to store energy. So from catabolism to anabolism, everything transamination takes part, okay? So let us summarize once again without the structures what we learned till now. Amino acid 1 plus alpha ketoglutarate, this is common, is converted to keto acid 1 plus glutamate, okay? So if it is alanine, it is converted to pyruvate by the enzyme either ALT or SGPT, same thing. If it is aspartate, again plus alpha ketoglutarate will be converted to oxaloacetate plus glutamate. So you see glutamate and alpha ketoglutarate are same. This enzyme will be AST, either aspartate transaminase or SGOT, same thing. And all it requires pyridoxal phosphate as a cofactor, and it's reversible. It can go both ways. Okay. So if we now look at the mechanism of transamination, okay, since you will get a short note, you need to write this mechanism of transamination as well. So this transamination reaction, you see there are 2 substrates, okay, and there are 2 products. So what is the sequence, how it happens? This transamination reaction is an example of bi-substrate reaction, and it occurs in what we call as ping pong model. Okay, so remember, ping pong reaction refers to transamination. Okay, you will get this name ping pong somewhere else also, but for now the most important, if nothing is mentioned, can you name on ping pong reaction? Definitely it is, we are referring to transamination. It is a bi-substrate reaction. So what exactly happens? It happens in 2 steps. Number 1, transfer of amino group from amino acid 1. Okay, from amino acid 1, this amino group is transferred to, not directly to the keto acid, it is first transferred to the coenzyme. Very interesting. So it converts amino acid 1, the coenzyme PLP is converted to pyridoxamine phosphate. Okay, so amino acid 1 donates the amino acid 1 to pyridoxine and itself gets converted to keto acid 2. So please understand what is happening. Actually this is keto acid 1, amino acid 1 plus keto acid 1, it is getting converted to keto acid 2 and amino acid 2. The amino acid 2 is the glutamate. Okay, so in the first step, amino acid 1 is donating its amino group to pyridoxal phosphate, and it is itself getting converted to keto acid 2. Okay, if you just look at the reaction, it will be very easy to understand. So this amino acid, if you just remove this amino acid, it becomes very similar looking to this keto acid. Okay, if you just remove this amino group, it will ultimately lead to formation, attract one oxygen molecule from water, and it will lead to formation of a keto group, right? So amino acid 1 is getting converted to keto acid 2. How? Where is the amino group going? Amino group is in reserve. It is stored as an intermediate with PLP, leading to the formation of pyridoxamine phosphate. So pyridoxal phosphate, it is getting converted to pyridoxamine phosphate. In step 2, this pyridoxamine phosphate is donating its amino group to keto acid 1, and this keto acid 1 is getting converted to amino acid 2, and pyridoxal phosphate is regenerated. Okay, so exactly see what is written over here. Amino group from pyridoxamine phosphate is then transferred to keto acid 1 to produce a new amino acid 2, and the enzyme PLP is regenerated. If you just think coolly, it's very easier to understand. Okay, first alanine will get converted to pyruvate, okay, and PLP is getting converted to pyridoxamine phosphate. In step number 2, alpha ketoglutarate is accepting the amine group from pyridoxamine phosphate, and it is getting converted to glutamate, and pyridoxamine phosphate is regenerated to form pyridoxal phosphate. It is very easy to understand. Okay, so what are the clinical significance of transamination? I already told you enzyme is present within the cell, and in case of cellular damage, it will be raised. So AST, aspartate transaminase, or SGOT, if it is raised, the main reason you might suspect is myocardial infarction, because it is present in huge amount in cardiac cell. When ALT and AST are both raised, preferably more rise in ALT compared to AST, we will surely understand this is a case of hepatitis or alcoholic cirrhosis. Okay, because in liver cells both ALT and AST are present, and in case of muscular dystrophy also these transaminase enzymes will be raised. So after transamination, we need to know about oxidative deamination. We already got some idea. Transamination is producing glutamate, okay, and this glutamate is reacted upon by glutamate dehydrogenase, GDH enzyme, glutamate dehydrogenase. It leads to the formation of alpha ketoglutarate, and then ammonia is released. Okay, so remember, in oxidative deamination, this glutamate is deaminated, amino group is removed, and there is release of free ammonia, the product being alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, so ammonia will will be regenerated, and what happens? This glutamate is converted to alpha ketoglutarate, which again goes into transamination. Okay, because this keto acid is important. We need free keto acid. If everything from the body is being converted from alpha ketoglutarate to glutamate, then there will be no alpha ketoglutarate left to undergo transamination. So this is the reaction that also regenerates alpha ketoglutarate. So there are two important roles of oxidative deamination. Number 1, it releases ammonia, and number 2, it regenerates alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, so, and mind it, this reaction is also reversible, but there is a catch. What is the catch? This glutamate dehydrogenase actually reversibly converts glutamate to alpha ketoglutarate and alpha ketoglutarate to glutamate. However, the reducing equivalent that are needed for both the reaction, reducing equivalent means the proton acceptor and proton donor, the hydrogen acceptor and hydrogen donor are different. For the forward reaction, it is NAD+, and for the reverse reaction, it is NADPH. Remember, this reverse reaction requires NADPH. Okay, deamination simply uses NAD+, no problem. We have got a lot of NAD+ in our body, right? But the reverse reaction uses NADPH. So when we need to revert glutamate dehydrogenase reaction, we need NADPH. From where NADPH is coming? It is coming from pentose phosphate pathway or HMP shunt, Malik enzyme, all those things. Those questions I hope you know by now. So no, this is one reaction that utilizes both NAD plus and NADPH. Okay, MCQ question and very interesting. So to sum it up, these two processes occur side by side. So first transamination is happening and then deamination is happening, leading to degeneration of alpha ketoglutarate, and then again transamination. So this two can be summed up in order to what we tell as trans-deamination. Okay, so what is trans-deamination? Most transaminases share a common substrate and product, that is alpha ketoglutarate and glutamate. We already know that with the enzyme. And then this interconversion of glutamate and alpha ketoglutarate happens by the enzyme glutamate dehydrogenase. Okay, so this pathway, this transamination, this pathway actually combines transamination, deamination, and provides a excretory pathway to remove nitrogen or in the form of ammonia. So glutamate actually has got a central role in overall nitrogen control mechanism. So this is the trans-deamination reaction. You may get a short note on trans-deamination. So what you need to write? Very simple. Alpha keto acid, alpha amino acid is converted to keto acid. Alpha ketoglutarate is converted to glutamate. This is transamination reaction. Okay, and then again glutamate is being regenerated to form alpha ketoglutarate via glutamate dehydrogenase enzyme. Okay, so the forward reaction utilizes NAD plus. Okay, and the reverse reaction, if you want to reverse it, needs NADPH. Okay, so this is the diagram of trans-deamination. This is very easy to understand, and it is the deamination or oxidative deamination reaction that releases free ammonia. So if you combine these two reactions, nothing is changed. Okay, amino acid remains amino acid, keto acid remains keto acid, but only ammonia is removed because we are also getting back the alpha ketoglutarate. Okay, so this is our progress till class 1. You should know the digestion absorption of protein, and we have also discussed about transamination, oxidative deamination, and trans-deamination. Feel free to ask any question, and from our next class we'll be going into urea cycle. Okay, so we will stop right here. Feel free to get back to me with any query, and I will see you soon with another video. Till then, bye and take care.